Welcome. Just waiting for people to come in before I get started. Thanks for being here. Hi, Allison is on her way. All right. Admit. Hello, Allison. Welcome. So like the focus for today is mastery of our $100,000 project, as I'm in the middle of two of them here. And that's what I'm focusing on, focusing on. And what am I observing? A 600% acceleration. And what am I relaxing into? Not needing to know.
That's the big one.
Yeah, and that's the value. The value of that, the outcome of that is faster. With such a great intention and focus at value, because we are aware we're being charged. ABC. Aware we're being charged is always creating a choice. And that is our model here. That is what we're completing on week 13, day 85, right where we're at today. This last week is completion. And so that is us mastering our $100,000 project. Faster. Creating the shortcuts. Do you see how we're creating the shortcuts? So with that, that's kind of my introduction and my welcome for what I have intended here for this hour.
And I signed in a minute too late to hear it. Would you repeat part of it? Would I have to catch the replay?
Allison can fill you in.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you. Okay, Annette. So Jesse was talking about two projects that he's got the start to. And in using the language that we've been using of his and yours, the two things or the two processes are, first of all, ABC, aware of being charged. And the second one is to focus, observe, and relax into the not knowing. So you're observing, and then you're letting go of expectation. Is that right, Jesse? He's gone. Not so much expectation, outcome. So with each step, you have a focus, which is different to an expectation. These aren't his words. I'm going through it because I'm processing it myself. It was much clearer. And so relax came into it, which is important. And that was it. And then he said, so that's my shortcut. And he's celebrating, I think he said week 13. So does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Sounds like a refocusing.
Yeah.
Of the last 13 weeks.
Yeah.
Bravo.
Hi, Jenny.
Hello, Ginny.
So it's that.
Hey, ladies.
It's what comes out of it for me again is that pattern that he talks about, that you take an action, and then there's a response, and then what do you do with that response? You become aware of how the response charges you, and you then relax into that charge, and you take action. And your action will either be to remove the resistance that might be there, or it's going to be to move towards the creation that you are intending.
I think that was very well said.
So, Allison, what is your resistance now?
Okay. My resistance is that I've realized that I can play strong when I'm safe. When I'm not safe, I don't play so strong. And I was thinking about that this morning, and about what you came in with at one point, Annette, where you said you were challenging yourself to show up in the same way on a bad day as you did on a good day. And then the thought was, okay, so when I'm not safe, what's the result of not being safe? And for me, it's exaggerated fear. And so when that exaggerated fear, or realistic fear, whatever, comes in, where am I coming from? And then I'm out of alignment. Because as soon as I put myself into alignment, I can still have fear, but it doesn't interfere with my action, with my taking action.
And so for the 13 weeks you've invested, what is that return worth for you?
It got me from only focusing on one part of my life to incorporating different aspects of living altogether. And it got me to relax more in terms of, in my case, physical health symptoms. And even though there were wobbles with how much do I pay attention and what action do I take, there was still, I could still reach beyond that. And so if I can repeat that pattern with regards to my body, then I can repeat it in terms of other things too.
Mm-hmm. And who would you love to serve with that?
Anybody that has got curiosity about how they can be more of themselves.
Thank you.
Broad, but in essence, that's what it would be.
Thank you. It's like I celebrate where we're at is like where we gather. So one of the important things I learned, like my lesson that I say, is like to gather.
Mm.
That is what we do, yeah, to gather with our focus, with our intention.
Mm.
And it's this creation right now that I'm celebrating. It's like, oh, I'll say what I said, yeah, and Allison steps in to say, this is what I heard. Ah, wonderful. Thank you for listening with a value, focus, observing, and relaxed into it. And you had resistance, wobbles, right? What we talk about is like, oh, we just see it in our way and we take the obvious action to get rid of it. Yeah, let it go because you didn't need to know, even when you asked, is that right, Jess? Resistance, boom.
Mm.
Where are you giving the power? To me, look, we're not equal. In your perspective, just in that moment, we're not equal, which means it applies in other times of your life too. It's just a pattern. I notice it. Only when we observe it, can we let it go. And you demonstrate it. So I celebrate the demonstration of that by gathering as organisms. That is what we are learning to do. And we break through with love. And then we scatter service. Service that cares.
Mm.
So people that work with you learn that. Wonderful. Thank you, Allison.
So sometimes when you check with somebody, it's not about giving your power away. It's about checking to see whether you're on the same page as that person. Sometimes that's important, right?
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. So what would you do next?
That's where the action comes in.
Or have we already been acting?
Yeah.
So we're just flowing through. We're being a demonstration of what we've learned. And it's like I don't know where I ask you where you're located. So that shapes where we go next. And it's like if I'm what I celebrate as a win is creating an organism, yeah, an organism. It can't rely on one person except for yourself.
Exactly.
So when it's like, oh, granted the platform equally, you stand on it and say, I declare my focus is to go this way. Oh, great. That's where we're at. So see how it's your chance to create what matters to you.
Yes, and then from there you get to create more.
Mm-hmm. Which I say is like a rule. The truth for me is that the positive will always amplify.
Mm.
And that's what I'm relaxing into today is like focusing on the positive because the positive amplifies.
Mm.
Negative doesn't. Negative doesn't.
Mm.
Doesn't. It can be all sorts of things and it doesn't.
Mm.
And so like a
Negative.
celebration, yeah, celebration for me to negative is that my first hire said no. That's my negative for today. Go ahead, Jenny.
Negative provides contrast, which can amplify.
It
Or-
can lead to amplifying.
Yeah,
But
it can
what-
lead to, I don't know, and the humility of confusion.
The only thing that matters is I make it a
Just-
negative or not.
And that's
Yeah.
perception. Yes.
That's choice.
Yeah.
That's charge. Mhm.
Yeah.
That's completion, if you want it to be. It's whatever you want it to. That's why I say negative doesn't, because negative doesn't can be everything. It like does not. And it's like you can fill it in with any words and switch them around. That's the beauty. But positive always amplifies because it is just that. It can't be anything else. That's why aware being your charged matters.
So if you're neutral, is that still a charge?
Well, I think it is, it isn't, and it's everything, or however we'd say it, right? It's something, it's
Yeah.
nothing, and everything. So the point of it is you still have to have a focus on something to ask about the charge. There's got to be, it's always got to be in some context.
Yeah.
To Ginny's point, right? You can perception. There's always got to be a contrast, and that's all we're looking to do is pull apart the contrast. And when we do that, now we have choices.
Yeah. It's amazing how long this stuff takes to sink in.
And what we is like, you may not accept that this is a 600% return, but I would say go back and watch your first one, your first session that you came here on. Watch that first one and compare it to this one, if you want contrast.
There's that one line in one of T.S. Eliot's poems about coming back to the beginning as though you'd never been there before. And I think about that sometimes because things are often completely new and yet the same. And so that's got to do with what Jenny was highlighting, was the perception, right? And the perception and the experience is very closely connected.
It's a good point. So I was thinking back, Jesse, on the beginning 90 days ago, approximately. Concurrent with your beginning, I had a beginning on a little health quest that's coming to a close. And a lot of awareness has happened for me, but in juxtaposition of your insights always being charged and the little voices in your head being happy and the equation for that, a lot of learnings have layered on top of layers. So to distinguish them from each other would be difficult to do. And I'm grateful for you because you opened my thinking into that concept of structure and how that in relationship to my relationships with my family members, and some of the most difficult challenges sometimes are the ones closest to us. And seeing that a pattern can play out, and when you become aware of it, it doesn't have the same power. So for me, the pattern was you attack me, I go hide, and then you accuse me, of hiding. And so when you call it out, it's so silly, but it is what happened. And so now it's recognized, and these automatic behaviors that we once were proud of, now we can recognize them for being kind of dysfunctional. And then when we're able to see our own dysfunction, others have an invitation to see theirs. So in my case, Friday, my husband came home with flowers because he says, I'm predictable, aren't I? And I said, usually, but where are the flowers from? I'm changing that. I'm not going to be predictable anymore, because it was a joke. He would just do the same things over and over. So for him, being unpredictable is of value to me. And he never saw it that way. He said, well, I don't go out and womanize, I come home every day. But he saw that being habitual cannot always be interesting. It can be boring. And so when we look at our automatic behavior, particularly when we're charged or triggered, that creates a pattern that's a disconnecting one as opposed to a connecting one. So that was a big insight for me over these 90 days, but more in terms of myself and then my relationship with myself, and then seeing shifts in my family, not forced. When we change because we choose to change, others have that invite, but they can choose not to, or they can choose to change. And that's okay too. So I'm, in a very roundabout way, saying thank you to Jesse for the ABCs of life. And for me to have a greater awareness of my own patterns, even a little bit. And then learning from a child, in my case, some of the basic lessons. It's so funny to hear a teenager quoting wisdom clips and going, I used to hate it when I heard these things.
From my club, almost all of it. Just no door.
Sorry, I heard background noise. She'll say things like, none of this matters, but it all matters. And then be okay with it. And be like, I can be comfortable with being myself by myself. I don't need anyone to affirm me, but I love to be around people. So it's kind of these paradoxical equations that go on in life, and we can now appreciate them as that is life, being in a paradox and being in a paradigm. Paradigm would be 20 cents, so I'll turn it back to Jesse.
Thanks, Jenny. Yeah, it's I had circled there, like shared with you. It's like had I wrote down today was like truths of my 90 days. Like looking at that, is like truth. Truth number one was if you want it enough.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm
Absolutely, Jesse. The 90 days, if you want it enough, yes, very much. I did take that to heart, and I did find that place between plus and minus, and I would sit in it and just absolutely revel, because there's the energy needed to be there is so easy. And good things were happening and good things were just unfolding in front of you. It's wonderful. But those are the parts that I allowed to be there. And this past week, there was a part that was experiencing the ABCs, but in the negative way. And I didn't want to deal with it. And today it was finally dealt with. Great big sledgehammer came along, blew open that ABC. And I've been dealing, there's part of me that's been dealing with a lot of rage. And only when after I had this wonderful discussion this morning with a friend who helped me see the ABCs of my rage. And in the time thereafter that I could sit with it, I have chosen to let go of the charge in my rage. And because we talked about action steps that we could do, and I suggested a couple things. And in letting go of this charge, I do have a plan of what I want to do as part of my process. Now, if I can bring that part into the sling of plus and minus, between the plus and minus, oh, that is what I would love to do. But we're going to take time to do that. But I do want to do that, just like I wanted to find that place between plus and minus. So the last 90 days gets parts of us moving towards our desires because we want to, we choose to. And there's parts of us that have gone hiding, as in Ginny's example, that we call them out. So FOR is what I was riding the coattails on for many of those days, adding plus trust equals win. So now I need to take another look at ABC and not sweep it under the rug and use it in a positive way, as opposed to letting it do the negative charge. And let it play out. So I'm looking forward to the next 85 or 90 days, Jessie. I know where I was when I started. And I'm looking forward to the next quarter.
Thanks, Nettie. That was great. It was like wrapped around the truth of not needing to know. As part of the charged is, what do I want? Why can't I have it? And in the why can't I have it is the context, and it means it triggers something. And like what I celebrate through this was separating that resistance, that uncomfortableness in the middle, like in the moment just before choice, to realize, is it mine? Is it theirs? And is it both of ours? Because it's always one of them, if not both of them most of the time. So it's my humility, they say, right? When I can say, oh, it's both of ours. Oh, it's like there's so much more of a lesson that is allowed at that moment, which is a shortcut. Faster. Yeah, yes, and right, Jenny? It's like, yeah, part of awareness. It always comes back to that damn awareness, Mona, the patterns that entangle with each person. Yes, and it's like as a group, we bring it together and we help each other, or we sit and do it alone in our own little mud puddle.
Yes, I actually made that comment a couple of days ago that I'm going to go play in my own mud.
Yeah, do that too. yes, and yes, and it's like I don't want to do it, but yes, and I can see how I could do it, and it's like beautiful.
But when you're playing in your own mud, you can always plant a seed and grow something new from it. Without the mud, you don't have the stuff that you need to make it grow.
Mhm.
Very true, Mona.
What a
Some
powerful
plant-
creator. Look at her come in there and just put
Yeah.
down her power and say, look at me grow. Let me create life. That is now how Mona shows up. Holy shit, I celebrate that genius.
Yes, that's boom. What came to me is sometimes we are thrown away like bad fruit. That bad fruit has seeds in it.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Compost and manure help things grow.
Yeah.
Mona, when you were
Sometimes-
talking about the mud, I was thinking about the lotus flowers, right?
Mm.
Hmm.
It's kind of like a phoenix rising out of the ashes. It
Yeah.
might not be perfect when you put it all together, but when it starts to grow and have the Fibonacci effect, it really shows up as something new.
Yeah. So I like everybody, but flowers, I go crazy for flowers. I absolutely love them. And so when you were talking about the mud, the lotus flower came immediately. And then I was thinking about beauty. And I was talking to Bruce, my husband, about it over the weekend. And he shared a story from his meditation teacher who said to him once, "You have to swallow this bitter pill because you are the essence of beauty."
Wow.
Can you say that again, please?
Mhm. You have to swallow this bitter pill because you are the essence of beauty.
Jesse, we don't hear you, but your mic is on.
Thanks, Jenny. I was just reading Allison's, put it in there. You have to swallow this bitter pill because you are the essence of beauty. Oh. And it's like that bitter pill is really, it comes down to what we take personal, what we're making personal, what we're fearing, grieving, having to know. Bitter or better? I don't know. Bitter, we have to swallow the better pill or the beauty. I don't know. Tell me again. I think
Well,
you broke out on both of them. So
You have to swallow this bitter pill because you are the essence of beauty.
I was alluding to the fact that sometimes what makes we can choose to be bitter or better.
good choice for sure. And that's, I'd say, being, yeah. It's like, that's why we say relax. That's what I part of that, relax into it. And it's like, what do I relax into? I'm going to relax into something that always works, which I find to be positive. And so I know fundamentally as a structure, if something is always going to be positive, like, or negative, like in this 3D world, I mean, it's what it is a habit that I have. It's my core, it's my deepest one. So might as well go for a positive. So that's why I just search for the positive in that moment. And then notice when I don't get what I want, right? And like why I called it a negative today, like what am I relaxing into is that my first hire said no. I called him up and said, hey, I'm about to get busy. Do you want to come back to work? And he says, no, I got a better job. I said, great. Well, how can I help you? And he says, well, would you be a reference? Yes. And so I completed that reference call today for him. And I told her again and again that if she didn't hire him, I was going to. So it really, it's in my best interest that you don't do it. And you see how that's like it's my negative that I celebrate, but in a positive way. Honoring his genius, his greatness, his gifts. At the end of the day, I want what's serving him best. It's his choice, as long as he has a choice and he knows he's got a choice to come back here with me. That's got to feel pretty good.
For sure.
Yeah, negative things take 5 times the energy of a positive. That's why it takes 5 positives to neutral 1 negative. And if you turn that around, it's amplified. And that's why I just, it's a 500% return in my book, at least. Yes, and what's next?
Can I go back to my statement?
Please.
So if you talk about percentage, you think about swallowing 1 pill, but being the essence of beauty. And the contrast between that.
So true, so true. And it's no, see, no one believes that one, so you have to give them something believable. And so that's where we charge.
I was going to say with that statement, so you have to swallow a pill because of being the essence of beauty. It's almost like being the essence of beauty, you have to swallow things.
I think those statements always depend on the context in which they're said. And as we all know, life is hard. But if you remember what your essence is, then you can swallow it. You can live in the paradox of it when you live from your essence.
So that's living from your true nature.
Exactly.
When you want it bad enough, that's what you're going to go for. If that's what you're going to put it all out there for, might as well be worth it. Again, let's sit with it like, oh, is that my resistance? Their resistance, or both? The skill is separating the two between me or theirs. The both. When I love remembering the both. That's where I learn my greatest lessons. I naturally will assume it's your resistance. And I think you do too.
When we can see the resistance as something out there, does it make it less personal? To be easier to navigate.
I don't know. I think it's important in the moment to be able almost to own it.
Well, if we're feeling it in the body, then I guess it's an automatic response.
Yeah.
I just think it's interesting when it comes to energy, because we can enter into a room and feel a different energy than the one we brought in. And it's good to distinguish what's ours and what isn't.
I think what I've been sitting with a lot of late is just that when fear comes up, it's because I'm not coming from my aligned self. And to be able to tell the difference between when I'm in alignment and I feel a bit of fear, and when I'm disaligned. Don't know what word to use.
Not aligned?
Yeah, when I'm not aligned, when I'm coming more from the egoic self, that's when fear stops me.
It's an interesting awareness, because I was thinking about resistance and the steps that we help others get unstuck if they feel stuck. The resistance is an inability to take a particular action in many cases. And that can be scary for the identity that doesn't want to let go. It can be fear of, I don't know what's out there. A lot of different narratives that can go along with that inability to take action. And yet, just an observation with what I've observed in myself and particularly in my youngest, that stepping into that place of fear, literally the body could be shaking and tears welling up in the eyes. And then there's a victory in that place right there. That first step out of the comfort zone gives courage for the next one, that makes it a little easier, and then the next one, and then the next one. But staying comfortable doesn't allow for that growth. It's a tough lesson to learn sometimes.
I would agree.
And it is what creates.
Correct.
It is what creates the tension, which then creates our reality.
Yes, Mona, be comfortable with the uncomfortable. Easier said than done.
And so much better when we're together.
True.
Because we're organisms. Yeah. We gather as organisms. We break through love. So what happens when you break through love? Essence.
You can't.
Stop limiting it to love.
I heard that two different ways. when you break through
Hmm.
love, and when you break through love,
I'd say you win with both, right?
yeah, love is
How
a
big?
noun, and I don't know. Breakthrough with love, breakthrough being love, breakthrough in love.
And then go
Hmm.
scatter services.
Mhm.
Your service. Yeah. Your service that cares.
Where shift happens.
By not needing to know. Only if
Play
you
in,
want it bad enough.
will you play in the mud?
You guys are on a roll.
I just want someone to do it for me. Bah, bah. Wiggles. See the wobble? Remember the wobble? The wobble, the
Wobble,
wiggles,
the
the
wiggle,
giggles.
the giggles. Yep. We're still doing it.
See, it's like you pay attention. It's like, oh, when I see the giggles, I was like, oh, I wonder what tension resolved. See, and then it's like, because then there's a completion, and it's like, oh, now there's space for something new, and it's like, oh, I wonder what's after that. So it's always good to know, because you're there now at the beginning of it. It's like, where are we going next? Or you find him in the middle of it in the tension, knowing that it's coming. You just don't need to know. Bye, Mona.
Bye, Mona.
Hi, Mona.
Anything you'd like to say before you depart?
She's gone.
She's history.
Yeah, she usually
So,
pattern is to both there. Good. And mine is to just walk through it. So aware of the pattern.
so Jesse, would you define that as leadership?
Mhm.
I would too.
Me too.
Sorry.
But to do it in this way, it can't be the focus of it. It has to be a result of. It has to be a result of the focus. So that's what the focus. That's why the amplification is the focus on it. So that leadership, yes, is included in it, but it's because of my passion is all. My true nature, my calling, my truth, and yes, that is the result of it, as you say it is.
Yeah, but that I mean, for me, that's important because I always had a problem with the idea of leadership because I didn't like what it entailed. And there are many different ways in which leadership can be defined, and this is the way that I like to define it.
There's a term I prefer called servant leadership.
Service that cares.
Serving by leading by serving.
Leadership. Oh, service leadership.
Servant.
Oh, okay.
But being the leader, in a sense, is a servant as opposed to a hierarchy.
See, like exactly that, like the equal happens when you consider both. That's the only way equal happens, when you consider both. But our minds are only focused are only trained to focus on one, but we're creators, so why not focus on two? Because then we create our own tension. Resolve it and get through it 49 times faster than any of our competitors. Value.
Alice is still pondering that.
Well, I've got an ulterior motive, I guess, because I'm going to be doing something this afternoon around it with someone. So I've been thinking about it a lot. Um,
Is there a wobble in there?
no, I don't think so. Because it's theirs. So it's more about me helping them or facilitating or holding up a mirror
Hmm.
for them. Right, which is what I love to do. So I'm just
And you can do that by experiencing it as well.
And the best structure is a question to create the tension.
Our certainty is the one that creates the limitation, and it was like just in the certainty of it's their resistance is the limit.
yeah.
So it's like, oh, and how could I make it mine when we're aware of it was just a demonstration of why to gather so that we can break through loving you like we love you and we don't want you limited. Yeah. So we have to do, we do it gently and carefully, but without like trying to make it personal. So if you go back to the very beginning and look at how you responded personally to these with your new awareness, that is a part of your value. Yeah. It's like, oh my God. And that's what people, how fast do we get people to see that? That's the other value shortcut, 600% at least. Yeah. So it's noticing when aware, when we're and noticing when we're not making it personal. That matters. Because it's the ego no matter what.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it's again, it comes back to how aligned you are, right?
And how many don't even know what you mean by that, Allison?
No, yeah, no, I know, but I mean, it's just in terms of us.
No, I know.
Truth is, if you want it bad enough, yeah, it'll be there. It's just people can't handle it. And it's silly why we can't. But then we have to be aware, because then it's not both of ours, you see, and we can miss our lessons and they can add up. They compound.
In a negative way, huh?
Yes. So
Exactly.
humility is the other beautiful word. As you accumulate more of the knowledge and wisdom and power and creativity, of course, there's greater responsibilities.
So the more I learn, the dumber I get, the more I need to learn. Maybe not dumber, but the more I need to learn.
Yeah, it's like breaking through that I don't need to know anymore. It's like breaking, it's like how it's all there, it's all available. It's like that's intuition. It's like, oh, the skill of it then is like how to, when people are aware, then it becomes important. That's why we're learning how to gather organisms.
I guess I'm going from the standpoint of being a learner. There's a humility in not knowing and not having, back to your quote, Allison, the conclusions of arrogance and the humility of confusion. You know, as a learner, being open to change, but also open to new ideas. There's humility in that.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, what it simple is like to just acknowledge what's triggered, because it's like, oh, that some reason I'm becoming aware of everything that's out there. I'm aware of this. What does that mean? Because it's always different. It's always a different space and time, as much as we want to create the same thing. When we want to create the same thing, we don't make any room for anything new. And when we don't make room for anything new, and new is happening around us, that resistance to hang on gets tighter and tighter until it's a breakthrough is then possible faster. Yeah, but the faster it is, it's the bigger the rebounds are. That's why it's helpful to gather frequently
Yeah.
so that the shifts are massively contained.
Exactly. Exactly.
So it's gentle as opposed to abrupt. So the the harder you hold on to the way things are or were, because every moment it changes, the bigger the break seems to be when you have to break through. And when you do the gentle shifts, it doesn't feel so painful.
Or destabilizing.
Good one. Yeah. Little shifts.
Mm-hmm. Can't go from A to Z. You've got to do A, B, C, D.
Mm-hmm.
Which is every day, which is every week, which is every quarter of life.
Absolutely.
With focus, observe, relax. Knowing your ABC, you're always being charged, and choosing choice.
So it's focus, observe, relax, and trust.
Because then you'll
because that relax is difficult if you can't trust.
Because people always ask, well, how do I relax into it? So it's an automatic structure. It's already set up in the structure that people will ask, what do you mean? And you're already positioned in a place to make a breakthrough because you're already gathered in the conversation, breakthrough, and then they scatter. It's as simple as that. So that's what I celebrate about ABC is when I started this for Happy, it's like, that's what I am working on my completion with. Yesterday was a rest day for me. It was like the end. 13th week was a rest day. That's what it didn't intend for it to be, but that's exactly what happened. Have I ever? No, haven't done that in years.
No, but thank you.
I'll take some, Bruce. Thanks, man.
Jessie says you have some tea. Jessie says you have some tea. Jessie.
I'll take some. I think we can spill the tea.
So will Annette, but Annette might like a beer.
Thank you. I want a microdose.
Yeah.
No way.
For tea, huh? Yeah.
Thank you. Sorry, guys.
Well, as Grace would say, we can spill the tea too.
All right, I'm coming to completion. How about you guys?
I think it's tea time.
Thank you so much, Jessie.
Great
And
session,
Annette.
Jessie. And that and Mona.
Yes, very much so.
Yes, thank you. It was just nice to sit back and listen. Very good conversation. I think I'm going to scatter now. Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks, Annette. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
And we're still here.
That's right.
Do you want to share? Do you want to share, Jenny?
No, we're live.
Okay. Sorry, I forgot.
Just suffice it to say, creation is happening.
Yeah, right. No kidding, right? Surprise, right?
Jessie, earlier in a chat, we shared that we were having kind of parallel experiences with our children and our own growth. So I'll just acknowledge that as I hear things come out of her mouth, I'm just like, wow, it took me how many decades to learn what you know? You're not even 20.
No, to unlearn what we learned.
Mhm.
I mean, that's the other way to look at it, right? It's like, oh, like we think they need to catch up to us. In all reality, it's like we need to unlearn everything that we learned. And it's like we're just farther along. We got there a whole lot faster than we don't want them to have to get there, right? Because of the, usually the breakthroughs happen because of a breakdown.
Mhm. To see that none of this matters, and to have that perspective, and to be able to go into a peaceful space as opposed to an anxious space, is a really good learning.
And I still get frustrated. I was sitting in line, we were ready to leave, and the kids wanted crepes, and I like, of course, this place is busy. I've already there it is. I created that it would already be busy, and that's what I experienced with it. And impatience and slow, and it was like testing me, and I was still in it, and I never really got out of it. Like all day, it was like, and just I have my way of doing it, and in the moment I'm fine, but it's like, no, I wasn't. I was taking care of me. I wasn't being there with my family. I was being fast and angry and frustrated with their slowness.
Flat as a pancake.
Crepe. And then they're too sweet, and then it's this too sweet, and it's like, I guess that's me being extroverted. Like maybe that's what I'm recovering from, having to be out in public.
Yes.
Well, it's funny you should say that, because we had a big discussion about intro versus extrovert, and I was trying to explain that my understanding is an introvert gains energy by being alone in general, and an extrovert gains energy by being with others. And so, but even the extrovert needs downtime to recharge their batteries. And that was an awareness, no offense, Mom, but I want to go walk by myself. Okay, that's good.
Now, it's tough to hear. I mean, you see the two opposites, right? Do you see in the middle, like if it's not neutral, if it's not equal, then they can't work the way they need to, and they'll try to suck in, or you see somebody who always try to gain an advantage on it.
But also just knowing that you can, as Allison uses the word, align yourself when you're alone, so that you can be more present when you are together, is a very powerful lesson.
It sure is. So we can complete here with that session, and then hang on, I'll close this out if that works. If there's nothing more about this session, let me just close out for myself. Completion, this is a focused ABCs all the way wrapped into completion of Q1. What is it on was what we're observing was this creation, like the 90 days. And what did I relax into? That it was positive, that positivity amplifies and negative doesn't. I celebrate for my wins. Number one was the new organism. Yeah, it's a new organism. It's like what means to gather together organisms. Yeah, so that we can break through love, and scatter our services. And then what are services? It's services that care. Therefore, what we care about, what others would care about. That's the balance part of it, is allowing people to be their genius, their gifts, and their greatness. And then the truth of it is, if you want it bad enough, if you want it enough, not bad enough, if you want it enough, you'll stay in the tension.
That's really.
And if you don't, you're taking it personal. And that means your ego's in the way, and
Wonderful.
Usually that means it's negative. So at that, I call that completion of mastery of your $100,000 project. Thanks, guys. Let me just end this.